Don't buy this, buy that. We've got another video today where I've got two whiskeys that go head to head against each other, and I tell you which one I think is the better buy. And I'll be getting a little bit controversial today. Stick around. What's up guys, Jeff here, and we're doing another this or that video. This is part of an ongoing video series. I do these quite often, and you guys know the drill. It's where I put two whiskeys up against each other. Now, disclaimer, this is obviously all going to be my opinion, and I like pretty much every whiskey in this video, including the losers. Pretty much. Anyway, I did get a little bit edgy with this one. There's going to be some divisive choices in today's video, and if you are one of the people out there who disagrees with me, make sure you yell at me down in the comments and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. That'll teach me. And it's funny, I actually had a comment recently, like, I often do mystery pours in my videos. It's very common, but because it's a mystery pour and I'm not reviewing it, most mystery pours, you don't actually see me drink them in the video, and I didn't in that video. And somebody in the comments was like, do you even drink whiskey at all, or are you just paid to say stuff? And okay, first of all, that is a very mean-spirited accusation. And secondly, it's wrong, all right? Brands do not pay me, ever, to say things on camera. I asked, they said no. And what kind of question is that? Do I even drink whiskey? Listen. Actually, not really. I did try it once. I didn't really care for it. It was very harsh. I'm more of an appletini guy. So there we go. The secret's out. My mystery pour is in fact apple juice, but the AI script wants me to pretend that there's actually whiskey in this glass. So let's play along. As is tradition with the G Whiskey video, I give you a hint at the beginning as to what the whiskey that's definitely not apple juice is. And today's hint is that we have a 14-year-old whiskey from an island distillery. It is a beloved island distillery, and this 14-year-old has been discontinued for some time. This whiskey was a crowd favorite back in the day. It is sorely missed, but luckily the distillery that made it is still going strong and, in my opinion, producing some of the best stuff coming out of Scotland today. And I guess that is it for our introduction, so let's not waste time. Let's jump into our list of this or that. In the meantime, if you will kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. All right, our first this or that of today is going to be two sherry bombs. In fact, two cask strength sherry bombs that are very well known. I've got the Aberlour against the Glenfarclas 105. These two whiskeys have long been competing for a similar space, basically the same pitch, cask strength sherry for both. Price-wise, this is a little bit interesting because in some markets, they're very much neck and neck, and in others, you're going to have the Aberlour that is substantially more expensive. But pricing aside, as far as I'm concerned, out of these two, the Aberlour is the clear winner. This was one of my first sherry bomb loves, and the stuff they're putting out today, still really good. And listen, I do love some Glenfarclases, not all, although I guess that's true of Aberlour as well, but the 105, it always came off a little bit screechy to me. Like there's a metallic harshness that I don't really get on with. Of course, it does improve with the addition of water, but typically with your Aberlour, those are whiskeys that I'm happy to drink straight. I think the Aberlours are up to batch 81 now, maybe 82. The last one I had wasn't that long ago. It was a batch 70 something. And yeah, the line is still going strong, still delicious. And for me, the clear winner. Next up, we have two Islas. In fact, we have two very well-aged Islas, and it's two Bowmores. I've got Bowmore 18 against Bowmore 18, deep and complex. And this is one that you would think would be pretty close. Actually, it isn't. Obviously, those are both very well-aged Bowmores. They're both sherried Bowmores. The difference is that your standard 18, the one that you get in most markets, is going to be a combination of Oloroso casks and bourbon casks. And the deep and complex is going to be Oloroso and PX, I believe. Now for me, here in Taiwan, I can pop over to the shop and I can buy either one of these, but that might not be the case for you because officially the Deep and Complex is a travel retail exclusive, so you might have to go to the airport to pick this one up, but if you get the chance to, it is substantially better. And one thing I do want to say here is that I don't think either of these are great whiskeys, and for the most part, enthusiasts tend to ignore Bowmore for good reason. I do think that out of the Bowmore line, the 18 Deep and Complex is the best affordable Bowmore. But yeah, it's not something that I recommend super highly, but it is an enjoyable whiskey, and it's the clear winner between these two. All right, the theme for our next head-to-head is coastal teenage whiskeys. I've got the Scapa 16 against the Old Pulteney 15. Another one that really isn't that hard. I'm going for the Pulteney. And I gotta say, man, Old Pulteney is good. And Even now, people still bring up the glory days back when we had like the 17-year-old and the 21-year-old. And yes, those were excellent, affordable whiskeys at the time. They're not around anymore. And the new Pulteney lineup, pretty solid. Actually, it's not even a new lineup, is it? It's been out forever. I feel like at least probably 10 years. I'll put the date up here when they switched their lineup, but it's been a good chunk of time. And yeah, people need to let go of that 17-year-old. But yeah, both the Pulteney 15 and 18 are good. Scapa, on the other hand, has failed to impress so far. I don't like their new line that much. To be fair, I've only had the 10 and the 16. I've not had the 21, which I hear is good, but it's quite pricey in my market. Ironically, I actually like the 10 more than I like the 16. The 16 just did not work for me. I found it kind of simple, kind of bland. I didn't taste the age, complexity, or character that I was hoping for. Meanwhile, Pulteney still has a great character. Now, Pulteney, both the 15 and the 18, are going to lean a lot more sherried than the Scapa line, so that's one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, if we're talking teenage, traditionally coastal whiskeys, if we're comparing these two, for sure, Pulteney. Next up, we're in the cheapy peaty category. I've got Ardmore Legacy against Ardbeg 5. And here where I live in Taiwan, I think Ardmore Legacy is tough to find, but when you do find it, it's roughly about $10 US cheaper than the Ardbeg. But I would pay $10 more to not have the Ardmore Legacy and to drink an Ardbeg. I think the Ardbeg 5 Wee Beastie is a charming, rugged little whiskey at a fair price. It shows off the distillery character, it tastes good, and the Ardmore Legacy is a whiskey. And what's funny is that almost across the board, I don't really like the Ardmore OB line. I don't think it's that interesting. But on the opposite side of things, I often recommend their IBs. Now, Ardmore IBs, they're easy to find. They tend to be quite affordable and they tend to be pretty good. I mean, obviously IBs are always a mixed bag, but Ardmore is a pretty reliable IB brand. Yeah, I think it's probably the most dramatic brand I can think of where you have this night and day difference between the OB quality and the IB quality. And, there's lots of people out there that'll tell you stuff like, don't buy OB Highland Parks, don't buy OB Mortlocks. Check them out as IBs. They're going to be better. And that is true. But I can still enjoy an OB Highland Park or Mortlock. Ardmore is a tougher sell. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent, but the point is, if you're looking for a cheapy peaty and you're stuck between these two, the Ardbeg will cost a little bit more, but it will be worth the extra money. It's a better whiskey. Next up, we have Talisker Wild Blue and Ardnamurchan Madeira. Why these two? Well, they are both gently peated, no age stated releases from last year that have been matured in some type of wine cask. The idea for the Talisker is that it's been matured in red wine casks from South Africa, and apparently this winery is coastal. It's near the sea. Talisker is also near the sea, so coastal double trouble. Ardnamurchan is in the Western Highlands. It's a coastal distillery. Madeira is a fortified wine from Madeira, which is an island. We're very coastal today. Anyway, the Talisker was disappointing. Now, I'm not sure if the Wild Blue was meant to be a follow-up to the Parlay, which came out the year before, a couple of years before that. I don't know if it's part of the same line, but I assumed that it was. So I had pretty high expectations because I really liked that Parlay. But by comparison, I found the Wild Blue to be much simpler, harsher, was a little bit young, and it just didn't really work for me. Meanwhile, I've not had a bottle of the newer Ardnamurchan Madeira, but I did get a sample of it. It is delicious, and it is the clear winner between these two. Next, we've got two 12-year-olds, two very well-known 12-year-olds, legends really. These are both sherried. What I've got is the GlenAllachie 12 against the GlenDronach 12. And I don't think I'm going to be very controversial here. I think most enthusiasts would pick the GlenAllachie 12, and that's what I'm picking. GlenDronach 12, though, I will say is still a good whiskey. It's not as intense as the GlenAllachie, and that's not just because it's 3% ABV lower. GlenDronach 43, GlenAllachie 46. Yeah, not just an ABV thing, though. The casks themselves aren't quite as rich, intense, or as forward as they are with the GlenAllachie, although still quite sherry forward. But yeah, I do like both, and probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I would have picked the GlenDronach over the GlenAllachie. Those early GlenAllachie 12s right after Billy Walker took over were not quite the same as they are today. Now he's had a lot more of it's got a lot more of his fingerprint on them, put it that way, and I think he's done a great job. You need to like sherry. If you're drinking anything from Billy Walker, you need to like sherry. And if you don't, then you won't like this one. But if it's between these two, I'm going with the more rich, lush, intense one, and that's GlenAllachie. Next up, we're moving back to the world of peat. We've got two legendary 10-year-olds. I've got Laphroaig 10 against Ardbeg 10, and this is another one that will not be controversial. I'm going with the Ardbeg. I think most people who watch my channel are enthusiasts. Enthusiasts want good specs, which is to say a higher ABV, typically 46% or upwards. Ardbeg gives us that. The Laphroaig, unfortunately, in most markets comes in at 40%, which is unfortunate. I think if you're in the US or Canada, you'll get it at 43%. And I'll say this, even if Laphroaig was the full 46%, I would still like the Ardbeg 10 more. I do like Laphroaig. I haven't always, but I've been warming to them in recent years, and I think they put out some wonderful whiskeys. But when it comes to house style, I do prefer Ardbeg. But the reality is that Ardbeg does give us better specs. Not only is it a higher ABV, but it's also naturally presented, and it just gives us more stuff to enjoy, more flavor, more complexity. It's the better of the two. All right, our next pair of whiskeys are two bottles that don't really get compared too often, but for me, they are similar in quite a lot of ways. And that's going to be the Highland Park 15 and the Benromach 15. Both of these whiskeys are very gently peated. They are from brands that tend to specialize in sherry, but not always. And they both come in at 43%. Not only that, they are similarly priced in my market. Now, if you know me and you know my videos, then the winner here is not going to surprise you at all because it's something I've talked about a lot on the channel, and that is Benromach 15. I think Benromach 15 is a beautiful whiskey, and I don't say that about a lot of whiskeys at 43%. I like a lot of whiskeys at 43%, but I often wish they were higher. I'm actually okay with the lightness on Benromach 15. Not everyone is, but I am. I like it so much, in fact, that I actually recommended this one in a Forbes magazine article. Oh yeah, you heard that right. I was in a Forbes magazine article. They asked me for a wine-matured whiskey that I recommend. Sherry is, of course, a fortified wine, and I put forward Benromach 15. And it's funny because in that article, they also said that I was a whiskey expert, which I'm not, but they did say that. Anyway, out of these two whiskeys, I think the Benromach is going to be much more lush. It's going to be much more rich. And it's also more characterful than the Highland Park. Now, Highland Park has a great distillery character, but with the 15 and a lot of their OB expressions, they play it a little bit too safe. It's too restrained. It's not as interesting as it should be, as it could be. Here's an idea. Try some of their IBs. Anyway, the big takeaway here is that out of these two whiskeys, I think the Benromach 15 is the better choice. Not only that, it is a surprisingly rich, lush, and delicious whiskey for the price and for the lower ABV. And also, Forbes thinks I'm an expert. Our next head-to-head is going back to peat. We have the Johnnie Walker Double Black up against the Laphroaig Select Oak. And this is an interesting one because the Johnnie Walker, of course, is a blended whiskey. Laphroaig is a single malt, but they are both positioning themselves as very budget-friendly peaty whiskeys. These two are very similarly priced here in my market, and that's also the case for a lot of the big online retailers out of the UK. And for me, this is an easy choice. I'm definitely going to go with Laphroaig, and that's not because I'm a single malt snob, but also maybe I am. I mean, not really. Of course, there's great blends out there, but these two don't match up for me. And here's the thing. I don't think Laphroaig Oak Select is a great whiskey, but I think the price on it is great. And for me, I'm happy to use it as like a mixer if I want a peat forward cocktail. If I want a sipper, I'll probably level up because I am a snob, as I mentioned. I think if you just want smoothness, probably that's, Johnnie Walker is the move, but Laphroaig does give us more. It gives us more peat. It gives us more richness. It gives us more flavor. Not only that, of the two, both of these are no-age stated whiskeys, but of the two, I would say that the Laphroaig actually tastes a little bit older than the Johnnie Walker. Now, the Johnnie Walker Double Black, I think was actually a good idea. I think it makes sense to have a member of the Johnnie Walker line lean more heavily into peat. It's more about the pricing. I don't think it's crazy expensive or anything. It's just that Laphroaig is very cheap. So if Laphroaig is priced like that, I think Johnnie Walker Double Black should be cheaper. If you're going up against even an entry-level peated single malt from Islay, that's probably going to be my first choice. Call me a snob in the comments, but for me, it's Laphroaig. All right, our last head-to-head for today is going to be Compass Box Orchard House against Clynelish 14. The Compass Box is, of course, a blended malt, Clynelish 14, a single malt. But after that last round, I felt like I had something to prove. And if you've watched the channel before, then you know how much I love Compass Box Orchard House, and that is my choice. Now, I do realize that that choice is going to infuriate a lot of you, and if you are very upset right now, if you're yelling at the screen, if your face is turning red, I would remind you that you just watched some dummy on YouTube carry on for about 10 minutes about an overpriced poison that we all drink. Don't get upset. Everything is ridiculous, and we're all going to die. Anyway, let me justify. Of these two, I think that nowadays the Orchard House is the more interesting whiskey. I don't think that was always the case. We used to have that wonderful waxiness in Clynelish 14. Over the years, that's just, it's not as prevalent anymore. Some batches, I guess, more than others, but the last two bottles I had did not really impress. Something's been lost. Meanwhile, you can actually get a little glimpse, a little hint of that waxiness in the Orchard House, which, funny enough, is composed of Clynelish as well as, I think there's linkwood and some other stuff in there, 2% Kalila. But yeah, 41.1% of the Orchard House is actually Clynelish. I think conceptually these whiskeys should be doing some overlapping work, some similar work in the sense that they're both meant to be sort of like bright, floral, uplifting Highland characters. As I said, my last couple bottles of Clynelish kind of didn't work out for me. Meanwhile, I do like the Orchard House to this day. It does lean a little bit sweet, but it's got a very apt name, Orchard House, because it does taste like orchards and it does taste like houses. It doesn't taste like houses, but it does taste like orchards. It is fruity, it is floral, it is waxy, it is bright. We even get this tiny little wisp of smoke at the end from the Kalila. Not only that, it's a blend. Not only that, it's cheaper than the Clynelish 14. Not only that, Forbes magazine called me an expert. I recommend the Orchard House. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and this is the part where I ask you what you think. So where did I go terribly wrong, and where was I right on the money? Also, feel free to give me some suggestions for the next video along the same theme. As I said, it's an ongoing series, so what two bottles would you like to see in another head-to-head in a future video? Finally, the mystery pour that's definitely not apple juice. Your hint was that this is a 14-year-old island whiskey. It's been discontinued for some time. It is a bit of a legend. The distillery is still going strong. I think a fair number of you probably already guessed, but what I'm drinking is Arran 14. This one I think we've not seen for at least 10 years, probably more than that. It's sorely missed, as I said. This is a great whiskey. It's an older style of Arran. Now, Arran is not an old distillery. I think they started, in 1995? But the earlier expressions tended to be more distillate forward. They were lighter, they were brighter. A lot of the vibe I was talking about with the Clynelish and the Orchard House, that bright, uplifting, spirit-driven character, that is very much what you got in these earlier Arrans. I do like modern Arrans, but as I said, they lean more into casks nowadays. And I just miss stuff like this. Great whiskey. If you can find it in the wild, good luck. Hopefully it's not too expensive. It's recommended. Hey guys, Editing Jeff here, and literally a day after I shot this video, Arran put this out, so they're re-releasing the 14-year-old, so that's exciting. I'll hopefully pick that one up when it gets to Taiwan, and we'll do a side-by-side. Cheers. And that brings us to the end of today's video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I will put my patrons over here. They are all very good-looking people, and you should join them. I will put the links to both my Patreon and my PayPal down below. And I guess we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.